Welcome to Part 10 of Introduction to Climate Change Science, presented by Robert Bourgeois, Associate Professor of Anthropology and Humanities at Albertus Magnus College in New Haven, and created in fulfillment of the requirements of a workshop on global climate change and food security held at Yale University in the Summer Institute of the Program of International Educational Resources in July of 2015. We left off last time with the conclusion that the risk of climate-related impacts are going to fall unevenly, disproportionately on the poor and disadvantaged, as between regions and also within every region. This is from the 2014 IPCC analysis and summary of the science on climate change. This is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Another conclusion is that that long-term change is irreversible beyond 2100. Many aspects of climate change and associated impacts will continue for centuries, even if emissions of greenhouse gases are stopped. The risks of abrupt or irreversible changes increase as the magnitude of warming increases. Some shifts will take hundreds to thousands of years to stabilize. There is high confidence that ocean acidification will increase for centuries if CO2 emissions continue, and will strongly affect marine ecosystems. And we need those marine ecosystems more than ever as desertification continues to diminish the amount of land that is available for food production. It is virtually certain that global mean sea level will will continue for many centuries beyond 2100, with the amount of rise dependent on future emissions. What about the future? This section is called Future Pathways for Adaptation, Mitigation, and Sustainable Development. What's the difference between adaptation and mitigation? Adaptation acknowledges that the changes are here and we must adapt to them. We can't change the fact that the bark beetles are destroying the pine forests in Rocky Mountain National Park. We have to adapt. Mitigation means we diminish or eliminate the sources of the problem. If we could stop the rise in emissions of CO2, that would mitigate the impact. If we could lower the use of CO2 emitted into the air, that would be a mitigation. And sustainable development means we continue to accommodate the human species without destroying the underpinnings of the existence of that species. And for this, it's going to take many paths and many dimensions of both adaptation and mitigation, including the importance of governance, ethical dimensions, equity, value judgments, economic assessments, and diverse perceptions and responses to risk and uncertainty. Equity means we need to worry about the unequal impact and not simply write off the disadvantaged. This is a global phenomenon. It can only be addressed globally. And this is a great difficulty because nation states, of course, each acts in its own interests. But globalization consists of those processes which ignore national boundaries and which affect all peoples and whose problems require global solutions. I'm at a Catholic institution that's sponsored by the Dominican Sisters of Peace, and in their missions in the world, all over the world, they have a very strong focus on climate change as an object of working for justice and peace. And Pope Francis, in his recent encyclical on our common home, argues strongly that he's sharing the consensus of science on climate change with every person in this planet, asking them to consider the common good first, and asserting that religion has a voice, because religion and faith entail empathy, and spirituality entails an awareness of the connection we feel with all other beings and with the world around us. Neil deGrasse Tyson said, "We are all connected to each other biologically, to the earth chemically, to the rest of the earth atomically." And the Pope in his encyclical has a beautiful section on the gospel of creation, which has a kind of mystical sense of the earth and nature as an expression of the glory of God. And so I will end with a quotation of Pope Francis. And with this urgent challenge, we come to the end of the presentation, and thank you for your attention.